tuned in to Let's Talk About It. I'm really, really excited about the subject matter today. The title is 10 Relationship Warnings for Women from a Man's Point of View. I do have a special guest here in the studio, but I want to give some commentary here before I do the introduction. You know, years ago, I had a husband walk out of the marriage. That's pretty devastating. It's a special kind of being launched back into singleness. It's a lot heavier than just breaking up with a boyfriend. And I was pouring my heart out to a girlfriend, and she said to me, "You need to embrace and enjoy your singleness." I was so upset on the inside, I can't even tell you. I stayed cool on the outside, but I did not receive well what she had to say. All I could think of at that moment was two things. But now I'm alone, and I'll never get to have a physical relationship with a man again. So that's where I was. And I was upset with what she said. I was in turmoil about it, but after a couple weeks, I settled down and I really started to pray because I thought, maybe God had her say that to me. I started to really pray. I started to really, really pursue God more than I ever had before. I started to work really hard in my profession, getting better and better at my job. I started to work harder at how I managed money. I joined several Bible studies, one of which I was in for over 16 years, and it had a monumental impact on my life. In other words, I grew and I grew. I gained so much confidence during that season of singleness. I blossomed in Christ. I finished and published my first book during that season. I got into internet TV ministry. Hello. I learned to preach publicly. I traveled to Africa to preach in 2 countries. I also had a variety of roommates with various temperaments that I learned to adapt to and work with. Singleness can be a very valuable season in your life. Don't be afraid of it. Be single with a purpose. Build an amazing relationship with God. Do volunteer work. Discover more about yourself and what interests you. Discover who you are and who God wants you to be. Discover all that you can be. Now, with that said, I want to introduce Paul Moody.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for being here. Paul Moody is a private investigator, and he knows a lot about finding out about people, doing research on them, background searches, etc. And your profession, you basically study humanity.
In a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways, yeah. You've seen it all, heard it all.
Oh, yeah.
And Paul also happens to be my husband. So I was single for a long time, and then God surprised me and brought me an amazing, godly man and brought a new season into my life. We're here today because we want to talk to women who are misspending long periods of months or even years of their lives on a relationship that's in limbo and going nowhere. Could we even say that they're wasting years of their life?
I would say that.
Yeah. You're wasting years of your life. You're wasting your future possibilities on a relationship that is going nowhere. So we want to get into the nitty-gritty, and we want to talk. I had a girlfriend suggest that Paul and I do this show. So shout out to Gina. Thank you, Gina. She said, you need to have Paul on, and you need to get talking about this stuff and have the man give the insights about
male perspective.
Male perspective, how a man thinks, how he reasons, how he's in and out of relationships. So we're going to get the dirt. We're going to get the nitty-gritty on the man's perspective. And I think that's very valuable. So one of the things that Paul said to me was, number one, ladies, it's important that you know yourself and know who you are. And during that season of singleness that I stepped into with lots of tears, lots of resentment, lots of anger, and then the girlfriend said, "Oh, you need to enjoy your singleness." And I was just like, "Don't tell me that." But it was a season of 13, 14 years in there that I did the most growing I've ever done in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So, Paul, you had some comments about know yourself.
Well, it's an opportunity when you're single to talk to God, to learn about yourself, discover what your passions are, what your interests are, what your goals are, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are. To learn about that, be able to work on yourself and become the best version of you that you can possibly be. If you don't have those things established, don't get into a relationship, because at that point you're just floundering around. You're not being productive in what you're doing.
Yeah.
So if your personal goal and your commitment to your values, if they have a good, solid Christ-centered, if you want to have a good, solid Christ-centered marriage, and all the blessings that come with it, and you want to have a man who is a match for you, you have to know yourself.
Yeah, that is so true. And it's far more than just, "Oh, I don't want to be alone." Well, get a dog.
Yeah.
I could write volumes on being a stupid, insecure, naive female from decades ago as to who I was. And I made decisions and choices that I look back on and I just think, oh my gosh. And because I didn't understand my own value, I didn't have good self-esteem, I didn't know myself. And during that season of singleness, I grew so much. And what you are saying is true. I learned about what my interests are. I got solid. I got backbone. So
by the time I met you 5 years ago,
I was a strong woman.
Oh yes, very much so.
Yeah. It's very important as you consider dating and start to have a dating relationship that you don't let go of you, and that you don't start adapting to the man everywhere. Because if you do that, you're betraying yourself. You want to come to the table from the get-go. No games. Know who you are. Know what you believe. Really know where you will not compromise. You must be true to yourself, ladies, because you want a man who loves you for who you actually are, not who you pretend to be. You don't want to be loved because you're trying to become a version of what you think he wants. If you do that, you're betraying yourself and you're actually lying to him. So you're dishonoring yourself and you're dishonoring the man. I really hope you're listening to this. And the things I've said, you've got lists and things to look at and reflect on, and you and God discover about you.
If you haven't done your homework, you're going to end up in a relationship, and after a while, you're going to wonder why you're there. Why do you put up with it? But women do put up with things like that. Don't make the mistake of trying to hold on to another person and not be true to yourself and your own goals.
Yeah.
You've got to know.
Why do you think women do that?
They think, this is blunt,
Yeah,
but they think that anybody is better than nobody,
yeah,
which is just sad. Or they settle. They think that they can change a person into a version of that person that they want to have. And the reality is you can't change anybody. You can change yourself, but you can't change other people. So if you try and do that, it's a big mistake.
Big mistake, yeah.
Take a man at face value and assess and watch him with your eyes wide open, always looking at, is he right for you? And don't be afraid to say no if he isn't and move on. And the sooner, the better.
Yeah.
You don't want to go 6 years into something.
Yeah.
You want to be making decisions like this 3 months into dating.
Yes.
Not 6 months,
Yes.
a year, 2 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
And we've seen that.
Oh, we've seen it. Oh my gosh. And you can't have the mindset that the other person is a project. I had a real shock. I got married at 20, and I had a real shock. I knew none of this. I had no sense of my own value or worth, and I accepted crumbs. And it was because of the background I had. I was a new bride. We did a 10-day camping trip. Came back, brought the suitcases and the luggage back up, and I was suddenly pushed onto the little garage sale couch that we had in the apartment, and I was told by that new husband, let's get something straight. And he said, I'm not putting up with you taking an hour to get ready the way you did on this trip, fixing your hair, your makeup, all that stuff. You took way too much time. I'm not putting up with that anymore. You need to understand, I married you to change you and to turn you into what I want. And he went on and on and on. And I sat there gobsmacked. And I was so young and unsure of myself. I just took it. And the relationship, that was the springboard I stayed in that for 12 years. Oh my gosh. So I sold myself so short. And we're here today because we don't want you to be selling yourself short. And there were lots of red flags while we were dating, and I didn't pay attention to them. I'll share one of them in a second. What is it you wanted to?
It just hit me. He couldn't change you.
Oh, he broke me. He absolutely crushed me as a person.
But he tried to change you into what he wanted, and he couldn't. And ladies, you can't change somebody into what you want.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
I had an incident, just one red flag. We were walking, his parents and his sister and brother-in-law, we were all walking in the Belmont Shore area. We were going to go to dinner. And out in front of me, in a crosswalk, small street with a light, an elderly lady stumbled, and she had 2 grocery bags. One of them, the bottom dropped out, and the other things all spilled. I was holding his hand. We were walking. I instantly went out into the little intersection. I helped steady her. I started picking up all her things. I got her over in a safe place. I went running into a little Rite Aid or whatever it was, got some bags, came out, got everything all organized, and gave it back to her and made sure she was okay. While his family stood there, and none of them did anything. And here's the red flag, ladies. 1, none of them did anything. He didn't do anything. He didn't join me in helping her. Number 2, when I came back to him, he pulled me aside and said, don't you ever embarrass me like that again in front of my family. You're walking with us. You're with us. And you just pulled away from me. You let go of my hand and you got all involved. That wasn't any of your business. I should have hailed a cab and gone home right then, and I would have been saved years and years of grief. It was a huge red flag. And instead, I went, oh, okay, I just wanted to help. I didn't understand my worth. I didn't understand who I was. I didn't understand that his values didn't match my values, and my values were good, and I should not acquiesce on what my values were. I would have been better off without the somebody or the anybody, rather than compromise the quality of value that was in me. And I didn't know that.
And this is why we need to be talking about
This is why we're talking
red flags.
Red flags.
Because people don't always see even the big ones.
Yeah.
So we want you to pay attention as we give you red flags that you need to see and know they mean something.
And we want you to be watching. And, if you're watching, put us on pause and sit and think, oh my gosh, I had an incident similar to that happen to me. Or we're going to be going through 10 things here that Paul thought of that were his perspective from a man's point of view that he wanted you all to be warned about. And we're talking about them because we want you to have the aha moments that will give you courage to really look at. Are you in something, in a relationship that is worthy of you?
And these are the basic day-to-day things that you need to be paying attention to. I can tell you crazy stories that are all true, but this is day-to-day.
Day-to-day.
As you know, I'm a private investigator, and I get hired to do background checks on people. And as a result, I know what to look for in things. And the worst reports are the ones that say there's nothing there. I look for red flags. Red flags tell me if there are problems. And that's what you need to do, is look for those little red flags as you go along, because you will see them if you're looking for them.
Yeah, you have to be your own advocate.
Ask yourself the question, is this guy the real deal?
And ask girlfriends, ask your parents, ask if you have guy friends, ask them, and ask for the straight truth.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to have fun. I'm going to start to interview Paul about this list that he came up with. So, and your purpose for being here with me today is?
We're going to be talking to women who have been dating someone for a while. And we've seen this in women who have been dating for 3 months, 6 months, 10 years. We've seen that also.
Yeah.
And that's a long time. So we
to be going nowhere.
Oh, yeah, to be going
and
nowhere.
Have your life being used up.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay, here we go.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, you may want to take notes. Okay, one of the first things that you put on your list was you're not a priority.
Right. And
so explain that. What does that mean?
Don't chase him. Ask yourself the question, is he lazy in the relationship, or is he genuinely courting you? If you've been seeing each other for 6 months, is he presenting, trying to figure out the best way to say this, is he presenting, I have my life, you have your life? If so, you're probably not a priority in his life. If he's happy to go off and do his own thing and doesn't invite you to be involved in his life, you're probably not a priority in his life, and you want to be a priority. If his life is his and not to be shared with you, you're not a priority in his life.
Okay.
You always want to be a priority, and we'll come back to that thing all through this list.
Now, one of the things that inspired conversations between us starting a few weeks ago, and I was bouncing ideas off of my friend Gina, and that's when she said, oh, you and Paul need to do a show, and you need to get his perspective for the women. There's a young lady that I know. She's in her late 20s, and she has been dating a man for 9 years. He is 8 years older than she is. So do the math, backtrack how young she was and his age when they started dating. And I said, how often do you see this guy? And she said, oh, he calls me or comes and sees me maybe once a week, sometimes once every 2 weeks. And I came out and I asked her other very pointed questions, and we talked woman to woman for a couple hours about the realities of what the relationship actually really is. And I came out and shared that with you, and you said, oh, she's not a priority.
Not at all.
She's a convenience.
She's a convenience.
In his life.
She's being used.
Ouch. But you know what? We're all grown-ups here, and we need to talk reality, because we don't want you setting yourself up for heartbreak. We don't want you being disrespected and dishonored. We don't want you not knowing how to value yourself. And I sure didn't in my younger days. So
I knew dating Jackie, she's smiling at this. I knew dating her that she wanted me to consider her a priority in my life if I was going to date her. She had a rule, and it just cracked me up, but I followed it, and because it was important. She said, if you don't call me for a date next weekend by Wednesday, I'm going to be busy. You can't count on me being here. And I didn't know for a long time whether she was actually going to be busy or she was just saying she was going to be busy. But she made sure that I knew that she was worth making the reservation with, to spend time with, be it go for a walk, movie, whatever, but it was important.
And I didn't spell it out for him that clearly.
Not at first.
Not at first. And I didn't know that as a strategy. I had girlfriends coach me because I needed coaching. I could have had an invisible sign over my head that said, Princess of Stupidity. No self-esteem here, kind of thing, on and on and on. And they were the ones who told me, if you don't hear from him by Wednesday about doing something with him this weekend, don't be available. So I didn't announce this as a rule. I did what my girlfriends told me, and he didn't call me. And then I think it was a Friday, and you mentioned doing something with a Saturday. And I said, oh no, I'm busy. Was I busy? No, I didn't have a thing to do. But I followed what they said, and I started to set up that pattern. And you quickly learned that if you didn't make interesting plans, have a nice suggestion, pursue me, and invite me to something, and call by Wednesday, I was busy whether I was or not. They also taught me, don't always answer the phone. Let a whole evening go by, and he wonders where you are. And if he asks, you just say, oh, I was busy. And you don't owe any explanation. And you may be home doing your nails, but be a woman with some mystery, ladies.
I say this with the utmost respect and love for you. You were not easy.
Wasn't supposed to be.
Wasn't supposed to be.
You're
easy.
not supposed to be.
No, not at all. And he should have to work a bit to go out with you.
Now let me ask you something.
Go ahead.
With all the dating that you did before we met, did you ever have any other woman have a standard like that or a requirement of that? Or
No, absolutely nobody. And who did I marry?
That's there you go. Flashcard, ladies.
Yeah.
Don't be all that available. Don't be. Oh yeah, she always says yes to me, so I can take her for granted. Or if something better comes up, or easier comes up, or more fun, I don't have to give her the time of day because she's always there for me. No, you've just turned yourself into a convenience.
Now, after about 6 months, you told me what was going on, and we laughed about it.
Oh, yeah.
But we also set a precedent with it.
Yeah, we did.
And it was important. And so I called early in the week, and I said, something I want to do this weekend.
And what was nice was it carried over into the first couple of years we were married. We've been married now for 3.5 years, and you continued that courtesy because I have a busy life. And I liked that. It made me feel respected, and it kept you on your toes with planning. And so, okay, now we've got another thing that was on Paul's list. You had as number 2, he doesn't want to know your story. What does that mean?
If a man is a real man, and he's a strong Christian, and he's really interested in you, he's going to want to know about you. Mm-hmm. He's going to want to pay attention. He's going to want you to tell him about you. I mean, not just hours on end, but he's going to be asking questions about you. And he's going to pay attention to that because you are important to him. You are a priority. If he's not interested in you, he's not going to ask any questions. He's not going to listen to you. He's only going to talk about himself, and he's going to be self-centered. Mm-hmm. I want to hear what Jackie has to say. When we get together at the end of the day, I want to hear what's going on and what she did. Mm-hmm. And I pay attention to it, and I listen to it because it's important. She is a priority. Mm-hmm. Does he if he asks you questions or you tell him things, does he retain it? Does he remember, or is it just going in one ear and out the other?
Mm-hmm. So what else, Paul?
If you want to build a Christ-centered courtship and relationship, he has to put your needs above his own. As Paul said about Jesus putting the church's needs in a high priority. Yeah. He needs to put your priorities above his. Yeah. And in a good relationship, you're both putting each other's priorities and edifying each other. But not one of you and not the other. Yeah. You've got to both be doing it.
And our assumption here on your behalf is that you're not looking for a thing. You're not looking for just a guy. You're not looking for all the grungy attitudes that are out there in the world. You're looking for quality in your life where you're trusting God for someone who's a godly match for you, that the Holy Spirit is guiding, that you can build on. So you want to be thinking and observing, what is this person's walk with Christ like? Do they have one? Is he honoring to you? Like the Apostle Paul talked about, that Christ honored and loves the church and gave himself for her. Is that happening as you're being courted? Are you being courted? Or have you already foolishly made everything way too easy for this person?
Also, is he growing in his walk with Christ? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. When I met Jackie, I had known Jesus for 6, 7 years.
And I'd known the Lord for about 40 years.
And I was a long ways from where I am now, and
Yeah.
right now I'm a long ways from where I will be down the road.
Yeah.
But you saw that I was growing in a positive way.
Well, you were in a men's Bible study for 3 or 4 years already, every
Yeah.
week. You were attending a small group with couples and a couple single people twice a month on a Sunday night. And you had been faithfully, week in and week out, playing your guitar on a small worship team at the church that you attended for like 15 years.
Yeah, so she could see that. It's not just that I said, yes, I'm a Christian and I go to church sometimes.
Yeah.
She saw that I was serious about my walk with Christ.
It was real. So,
But I still had to grow.
oh, well, we all do, hopefully. So, okay, here's oh gosh, I don't think we can beat the clock on this one. You know what? We're gonna do another session, and we're gonna continue covering, because we want to jump in on point number 3. I hope you're enjoying this so far. Again, these are items that I said, Paul, would you think about men's attitudes in dating and relationships that women need to be warned about? They need to be savvy. They need to be aware, because men think differently, they do things differently, and they're not a girlfriend. And one of the big things that you emphasize that I've learned is, if a man tells you something about himself, it is what it is. So don't think you can change it. Don't think, oh, he'll change for me. No, it is what it is. If it doesn't match all the things you've already set up between you and the Lord, thank him for the cup of coffee or for the salad and the soup and move on. I've got 34 seconds on the clock. So I want to tell you, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for putting so much time and thought for several days into this.
My pleasure.
We're going to continue with you all. And I hope you're taking notes. Share it with your friends. And
ask any questions you want.
Yeah, send in questions, please. Our info is on the bottom of the page there for Let's Talk About It. I would love to hear from you. Paul would love to hear from you. It would give us more things to aim at for another show. So thanks for watching. I'm Dr. Jackie Priestley. This is Let's Talk About It, and we'll see you for the next episode.